Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home. I'm Colleen Pilar, and this is where pet professionals come for honest conversations about what it really takes to show up for yourself while serving the animals you love. If you've ever felt caught between compassion and exhaustion, you're in the right place. Here we explore what it means to reconnect with your inner wisdom and rediscover the joy that brought you to this work. Make sure to join my email community at colleenpilar.com for gentle, practical insights designed specifically for pet professionals. Now, let's dive in. Hello, my guest today is Francine Coughlin, and she is the owner of Bark and Roll and also the founder of B&R's Rock and Rescue. Hi, Francine. So glad you could join me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you today. So tell me a little bit, first off, about Bark and Roll and also about B&R's Rocking Rescue. What kind of pet professional are you, and how do these come into play?
I am a certified dog behavior consultant, IABC, and a CPDT-KA, and a bunch of other things, but those are the two that we'll focus on. I started Bark and Roll in 2010. We're just north of Boston. I started as a dog walking and sitting business while I was getting my ABC certification to be a dog trainer. So I knew I would need, dogs to work with to hone my training skills. So I figured I would give dog walking and sitting a try. I had a dog walker who I loved when I lived in Los Angeles, and for my first personal rescue dog, and I just thought she had the coolest job ever. And so I made a transition out of working in the film industry and film production, which is what I went to BU for, and started dog training, and then started Bark and Roll. And now Bark and Roll is a small business still, but we have a facility for daycare and overnight boarding, and we also have a pretty robust training program. We do group classes, one-on-one private training, workshops, things like that. And we also still have that walking and sitting business in the two towns, the Reddings. We call them North Reading and Reading, Massachusetts.
Awesome. That's a lot.
It's a lot. And then in 2017, I founded our nonprofit Dog Rescues. I had been doing a lot of work, pro bono work for other rescues and shelters in the area, and helping to rehab red collar dogs, they would call them, are dogs that had, bite incidents on record, extreme anxiety, aggressive incidents, etc. So I started this rescue so that I could sort of have more of a hand in choosing the dogs for rescue, and also offering behavior support for the life of the dog. So we do both organizations, the for-profit Bark and Roll and B&R's Rock and Rescue, work hand in hand to help provide behavioral support. So we include with all adoptions training through Bark and Roll. Something we like to promote, because most of the time when matches don't work out, adoptions don't work out, it's because of a behavioral issue generally.
Yeah. It's lovely that you provide that for the life of the dog. Not, 6 months would be amazing, but for the life of the dog.
Yeah, we do, of course, I don't want to misspeak. We do include free of charge, are included in the adoption, our 7-week puppy course, or beginner course, or private session. After that, adopters may have to pay for services after, but you can reach us really anytime in email, and we will, of course, provide whatever support we can. And we do have to pay our training team. So it can't be pro bono forever, but certainly if something is going to be helpful, we will provide support and tips and guidance through the life of the dog. But if anything in-depth is needed, like a course or private sessions, things like that, it may be additional. But yeah, we really want to see our matches work, and work for both sides, for the dog and for the adopter.
Okay, that's amazing. So when you opened Bark and Roll, you were already working toward becoming a trainer. Like, you were collecting the hours. So what was your vision at that time for your business, and how is the current business match or not match that original vision?
Great question. I I really wasn't sure because I was coming from a completely different industry. What I did know was that what I was doing was not really fulfilling me. It was, I loved creating films and TV programs, et cetera, and working on the production side and the creative aspect, but I was not happy about the all-encompassing uh, frivolity and sort of burnout that I was already experiencing my mid-20s. I just felt like it was really just, especially living in Hollywood, it's like everything I did really revolved around that. And so what the reason I got involved with dogs really is because I started volunteering at shelters in LA County, which were a sad, sad place. It was all pitties and chihuahuas at the time, really, because of Beverly Hills Chihuahua, and of course pitties because pitties. So I was really doing that for more like a therapeutic break from working in the film industry and being surrounded by film people. I wanted to work with animals so I could take some time away from all of that busyness, and it helped clear my head a bit. And I felt that I was doing something worthwhile, obviously volunteering my time. I've always loved dogs. So yeah, that's sort of the vision, was to try this out because I was coming from a completely different life path, and I never in a million years thought that I was going to be working with dogs. So in a professional capacity, maybe a volunteer capacity, but yeah, once I adopted my first rescue dog, Teeny. She actually was with her brother at the time too, and he stayed with my ex in LA when we went our separate ways. But when I adopted her, just kind of lit that fire of dog training. So I was working with an amazing trainer with her in Los Angeles, and then so I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a try. Obviously, this is something that I feel called towards. So I thought small business, just me doing some dog walking, not sure where the need is, so I was servicing 6 towns, and then quickly got busy, and it was just me. So I was doing that, and then I was doing training sessions, with my clients and offering training sessions, and advertising in the local paper, which here is still, like, read. People still read the paper here. So my brother and his husband had, gifted me an ad in the paper to run a few weeks for this new business idea. And that was so cute. And it actually got a lot of hits. And then I started growing slowly but steadily. I try to do things conservatively. I'm a risk taker, but at the same time, I wanted it to be calculated. I was living in my parents' barn. It was not exactly what I was thinking, mid or 20s of what I was going to be doing. So yeah, I don't think I really knew what the vision was, other than to just build and see what the need was and where this was going to take me and how I was going to feel every day about it. Because I was at the time at the peak of having experiencing really intense anxiety, and
Hmm.
starting to get professional help for that. So that was hand in hand with this, and actually my therapist at the time was helping to sort of guide me along and give me that push to do this, and that was really cool. I still credit her with really helping me get the courage to do it and the clarity to do this, and figure out that I needed to make the career change for my own sanity and well-being, and that this was actually more of a calling and a purpose. So yeah, I don't know. I kept volunteering at a local shelter here and just kind of getting my hands on any dogs I could to work on my training skills. And then, I never imagined in a million years that it was going to be, we have over 30 employees now. And it's, and the rescue. So I did not see that coming. But it grow over time. I had a really small training studio space locally. I made a promise to myself never to commute again. So I was like, it has to be in my home. It has to be in my town, yada, yada. So yeah, it was just one foot in front of the other, building blocks, and there were setbacks and things, but I never gave up, and I just kept going forward. And yeah, yeah, like I said, this is not what I envisioned, but as I went along, as I would get a new vision or a new goal, I would certainly continue to go after it tenaciously, because it's not easy to set up a canine care business, especially a facility, and especially to grow, to hire employees and trust them with your brand and
Hmm.
dogs, period.
Yeah.
So that was difficult, but yeah, here we are.
I have two totally separate questions I want to ask, but let's pull that string right there. Like, That is one of the biggest concerns many of us have when we think about, like, bringing anyone onto a team is not only how will you represent me in my business, but are you going to treat the animals the way I want them to be treated? And that can be at any level. Like, there are lots of well-intentioned, kind people who won't treat an animal the way you want it to be treated, so we're not talking about, like, are you gonna go out and hurt anybody, but, like, are you gonna, like, do what I would like for you to do? What helped you to just trust that you can find people who can actually be trusted to do the work for your organization?
I did sort of I was coming from a very social industry, where, I'm a very social introvert. So, I'm kind of a people get confused when I say that I'm an introvert because I'm very social and I talk and ramble and, as everyone will experience listening to this podcast. But, I think, I was craving sort of some I don't know about partnership, but I was craving other like-minded people who were passionate about dogs, and I was meeting them slowly but surely, but people are very protective of their businesses and their client base in this industry, and that's totally great. I am as well, but, it can be very isolating, this industry, I found pretty quickly, and, walking dogs all day alone, et cetera, is like, there was a lot of, really nice that was really nice in a lot of ways, but in some ways, I was like, "Oh, I couldn't have gone to more extremes." So, I knew that I needed help, one, because I was, like, I was getting a bad back from all the linear motion, and I was like, "I need help if I wanna continue to grow this business, and do I wanna grow the business? Do I wanna stop?" And I was like, "No, I don't wanna stop. I want this. This is going well." I'm really digging clients are digging the approach, and I'm gonna keep trying to go with this. So I didn't know how to hire anyone. I do come from a family of entrepreneurs. I have 2 brothers, and my mom and dad. Every single one of us at some point or still, had their own business. So I did sort of riff off them on how to hire, and, they gave me really good advice, and so I kinda put feelers out there in my own network to see, 'cause I was like, I wasn't brave enough to just take somebody, it's a complete stranger, so I wanted someone through, like, referral. So my very first dog walker, is a woman named Stephanie, who actually everything comes full circle. My 11-year-old daughter is doing, mother's helper for her this summer for her
Mm.
one-year-old, and she's actually there right now doing that. So, we stayed in touch, and, she was brilliant and wonderful and young and excited and trustworthy, so I think, it just started off well, so that gave me the confidence to continue to, and sort of know what to look for, but that was a lucky hire, for me, and it wasn't completely cold. Our cousin, was her neighbor, and, she would take care of his dogs every now and then and was, like, volunteering at the shelter and things like that, so that's how I hired, and going from there, I try to just hire, I feel that I have a really good, read on people, body language for me, I think that's one of the reasons that I work well with animals is that I can read body language pretty well, and I can read human body language pretty well, and I can usually get a pretty good read on people and their energy, pretty quickly. And yeah, it's just you have to trust your gut, and of course it backfires sometimes. And there are people too that I'm like, I'm not sure, like they're really in this, and like so I don't put a lot, all the eggs in the basket, but I will, give them a chance. I'm a big proponent of giving people a chance, even if they don't have a
Mhm.
ton of experience. People sometimes will come in there, I didn't go to college, and I'm like, okay, who cares? Like that is not something that I'm looking for. I look for people who truly can interact with the dogs immediately and see, and the dogs tell me a lot too about how they're feeling
Mhm.
wise when we're hiring. But there's a lot that goes into it. I think it was just having a really nice steady stream of people who I could trust, coming on board, and then knowing when to cut ties with people who weren't a fit. So yeah, it's not a great, it's a very specific answer because there's so much that goes into it. But I don't know. I hate to say it, but it is a lot of a feeling when I meet people.
I think my entire life is done based on feeling. Like, what things mean is dependent on how they feel. So it is tricky um, to sometimes put it into words and have someone else understand that. But the reality is, we're all kind of operating on that level of, well, how do I feel about that?
Mhm.
So you've hinted about previous career already considerably. So let's go back to 10-year-old Francine and take me through what she thought she might do as an adult to, through the Hollywood period and then back to Boston. So what did you think when you were 10 you might do?
I thought I was going to be an attorney with my brother. I have a brother
Okay.
years older than me, and he was kind of he's always been a role model and a guiding light for me. And he was going to BU Law School. He went to BU and then BU Law School. And so I don't know if 10 was quite then, but I think he always wanted to be a lawyer. Growing up the way I grew up, I have, blue collar parents, didn't go to college. They ended up becoming really successful business owners in their trades. And I was encouraged, I would say, to do something like be a lawyer, be a doctor, something like that, that was different than what they did because you're Italian, I'm third generation Italian. The immigrant mentality too was to like always, you want your kids to have the better life than you and really like who's going to be the first woman in the family to go to college and things like that. Like, I mean, it sounds really ridiculous in 2025 to a degree, but that is how I was brought up. And so I really had my eye on that prize of going to college and becoming a doctor or a lawyer or something. I know doctor wasn't really part of it because I was never great around blood. But I think, being a lawyer, I certainly was good at arguing with my older brothers, et cetera, and proving my points to my teachers, my parents, and I was always a little tenacious about that. But yeah, so I thought I was going to do that. So when I got to applying for schools, I was pretty much looking for pre-law programs, and then didn't really matter about law school yet, but I was going to check that out. So that was my intention when I went to Boston University, was to be pre-law. And then I would say in junior high and high school, I started playing with video recording on these old, the little. I'm blanking on the name of the tapes, which I should know. You put the little tape and the big tape. We had one of
Mhm.
those video recorders, and I thought I was really cool, and I would make like projects like for Spanish class or history class. I started doing a lot of visual arts. I went to a college prep school that had zero creative programs. We didn't even have art class, if you can believe that. So it was all academic, and there was always a creative side to me that really was wanting to bring visual arts into school. So I brought it that way, and I loved editing. I loved shooting, editing, directing. I thought it was super fun. I had done plays as a kid, and I was always doing the plays in the neighborhood, writing and directing them, and of course starring in them too, probably. But I was, I loved that. I loved dance. I loved all those things, those outlets, and really really needed them. So yeah, I started doing those things earlier, but like I said, I wasn't raised to think that that was a real possibility to go, work in film or TV. It didn't even cross my mind, if I'm honest. I was like, this is just something fun that I like to do. And then I went to BU and I met kids that were in the College of Communications, and they were film and TV majors, and I was like, what? That's a thing? Actually a really good school here. We have internship programs, study abroad, blah, blah, blah. I was like, so I went in and audited a class and talked to the professor, and she was like, it really feels like this is something you're interested in. So then I took some official classes and I transferred over to that major. And I was lit on fire. I was among my people. I met my very best friend to this day in that program. And I just, I could see a path that I never imagined before that just felt
Mhm.
right for me. My family was super supportive. They were like, we always wanted you to do something creative, but we never wanted to steer you in one direction. And so yeah, I was did internships. I did a semester in London, a semester in Los Angeles, an internship program. So my senior year is essentially studying abroad and working in the industry just to make sure that that was what I wanted to do. And I loved it. But yeah, once I got my first job, I landed with Jerry Bruckheimer, which is he's still a prolific producer. He just did the F1 movie with Brad Pitt, and that was my first interview for a real job was with him. That was intimidating and insane, and I was given like a real fast track to doing film and TV production through him. And yeah, I went and worked on after working for him, I worked on the Pirates franchise. So I traveled to the Caribbean, and I did that for about a year, working on Pirates 2 and 3. And that is where I met some of my most favorite people, the animal trainers, the on set, the clicker trainers. And that was the first time I saw clicker training really at work, other than like outside of the aquarium. And I was really, and again, I felt like, you're my people inside the industry of my people. So I started
Mhm.
that started to sort of light another fire. And I was like, oh, look at, and they were so cool. And we had just had so many animals working on set every single day. And I was just so impressed with what they were able to teach them and how they handled them. And just really loved working with that particular group of trainers. I thought that they were just great people. They were really chill. They were the least stressed out on set. And that really, again, sparked another fire in me when I went and started doing some volunteer work after that film. I kept in touch with one of the trainers, Mark Harden, who is brilliant, and he helped train my two rescue puppies that I had mentioned before, Teeny and Cooper. And yeah, he was awesome, and I just kept in touch that way, and then started thinking about animal behavior as a career as I started to sort of feel like my heart wasn't as in film production anymore, and I had been doing it. I'd been living in LA for 5 years at that point, and I was like, "Well, maybe I need to look at, pursuing this," because I was just feeling much more fulfilled going to the shelter and working with my own dogs. So, yeah, that's how I ended up past the Hollywood phase, and then I actually got pretty ill. I had bacterial meningitis, and yeah, I thought I was just having migraines. And my mom came out from Boston, and while she was nursing me back to health, I got a call from a movie in Boston asking if I wanted to come work on it for 6 months because it was a producer I'd worked on the Sex and the City movie in the LA office, and they had asked, and I had told them how much I was dying to work in New York or Boston on the East Coast. I miss my family a lot, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to come work on this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I really do. When do I need to come?" And they said in 10 days. So I asked my mom, "Can I get healthy in 10 days?" And she was like, "Yes, let's get there." So went back east. It was for Bride Wars, which is a Kate Hudson, Anne Hathaway movie. And I came back here, and then I never went back. I mean, I went back to get my stuff, but I never went back. I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay here, do film here because Massachusetts was getting really good tax credits. And then I ended up staying here and then continued to think about how I could work with animals as well. So started volunteering here in my off time. And then yeah, I met someone who was in ABC, Animal Behavior College. I'd never heard of it. And I met him at a party, and he was telling me about how he's getting a certification. I looked into it, and I started doing that on the side. And yeah, started my transition. So everyone I worked with in film and TV back here sort of knew that I was transitioning potentially. So I was very transparent about that, especially since I needed to like leave sometimes to go get my dog training hours in and stuff. So I was balancing both
Mhm.
careers, trying to figure out, was this a hobby or is this going to be my next step? So I think you can see where the path leads, but I ended up jumping ship on film and TV production, although I still love it. I did produce a short film before I did that, and it was amazing and a great experience. And then I ended up, yeah, just going all in on my business. So
Awesome.
making
Love that.
$15 a week, walking one dog, and that was
Yep.
well. Thank goodness my parents were supportive, and I didn't pay them rent, so I will forever. They actually live next door to me now and my family. In our compound, we call it, and it's our Golden Girls compound. We call it because the long term My brother and his husband are also moving in after retirement. They're retiring early, and we will take care of my parents when they need care. Right now, they don't. They're very spry, and they actually care for my dogs when I'm not home. So yeah, that's where everything is now.
I love that. I love all of that. My nephew always talks about wanting a family compound. So he in the last 6 months, he's convinced my sister to move. Like, she's not actually as close as you guys, but, like, she's a few minutes away. But since high school, he's like, "I'm gonna be rich, and we'll have a big piece of land, and we can have a family compound, and everyone can have their own place, but also." And I'm like, "How awesome." And what high schooler has that as part of his vision? But he did, and he still does,
Really,
like the idea of having people close by.
that is so sweet, and I do love it. I mean, I know that not everybody's family is set up for that, and you could, but we, grew towards that, and
Mhm.
everybody gets along really well. I mean, we're a passionate, like I said, Italian American family, so we are loud and we say what we need to say immediately. No one holds anything in and lets it fester. That's our love. So yeah, we're just, it took my Irish American husband who was raised totally different and his sister some time to get used to us. But yeah, we're all very close and yeah, they are more communicative in our style now. If they want to be heard and they want to be part of the gang, I'm like, you gotta just say what you gotta say, and doesn't matter if anyone gets upset. That's how we communicate, and hopefully and then we smooth it over. I never go to bed angry, ever.
Well, that's good. That's
Try to
good.
be that type
So
of player too, and person to work with, for my clients. I try to be that person.
mhm,
So it's just tries to be as direct as possible and really talk about something before it grows into a bigger issue. So I try to encourage that. I find it hard, especially for people who work with animals. There's a lot of social anxiety, which I also experience. But coaching my team to say what's on their mind and really bring what they need in an open door policy, what they need to say to the table, and try to approach each other that way too. It's a big challenge. One of the biggest challenges I think of owning this type of business is making sure that everybody isn't getting burnt out and is speaking up and is feeling supported. And you can only get people so far, I think, with that. But yeah.
mhm. Yeah, but you can create the conditions in which it can occur. You can't make it happen, but you can create the conditions, and it sounds like you really are, which is awesome. What a lot of pet professionals have come from another career, and it always adds. Like, there's always some benefit of having had a past that's different. So, what's something that's been really helpful to you that you had your whole film career first?
As a business owner, being able to really know what to ask for and how to ask for it when I need something done, basically. So owning a business, especially as a young woman in the past, when I was starting out, I found that people didn't take me very seriously. The amount of people who I would interact with, the town and vendors, etc. How many times they had asked me, if my husband was, involved in the business, am I the decision maker? Even clients were sort of wondering, how old are you? What makes you qualified to have a business? Sort of, I was like, okay. So just dealing with the difficult people and personalities that I dealt with in Hollywood, A-listers, I'll call them, and some of them were great. Many of them were not. So dealing with them, and dealing with the day-to-day in Hollywood, I built up a very thick skin, and I built up, confidence, on how to approach difficult, issues, difficult conversations, and how to deal with difficult people. So as a business owner, as an employer, etcetera, I think that really helped. And I also learned what kind of, boss and colleague that I wanted to be, because I
Mhm.
what I didn't want and what I didn't
Yeah,
like. Um, so it helped me to know what to model and what not to model. So yeah.
awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I learned a lot about myself there. I learned a lot about uh my my, they call it work-life balance now. I guess that the kids are calling it work-life balance. I didn't know that's what I was looking for because I come from a, work your butt off until, you succeed and then you can take time to like enjoy.
Hmm.
And like I'm not entitled to anything. I'm just happy to be here. What kind of uh I call it a shit sandwich. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear here. What kind of poop sandwich am I eating today for you to maintain and to, work my way up? What am I, what is my tolerance level of allowing treatment? I worked in Hollywood before Me Too. And we don't have to get into it, but there was a lot of specific treatment that I experienced, and different attitudes that I experienced. It quickly became known that she's from Boston and she's tough, and so leave her alone. And I liked that. I
Hmm.
I rolled with that. But yeah, I think there was a lot of that learning curve working in that industry definitely made me tougher and I don't know, more scrupulous, I think is a word.
Hmm. Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
I ask all of my guests to share words that have meaning for them. And I find it fascinating how often the theme resonates with the conversation that we have. So, the words that you shared are your family motto, which is never give up. And you have given us so many examples of your tenacity and how you work through things. But tell me a little bit more about the family motto. How did it come to do you even know how it came to be the family motto? How does that
Yeah, I do know how it became the family motto. My husband actually had made it our family motto. And again, this is a guy who he was very non-emotional, not good at expressing himself, a man's man. He's a firefighter and a contractor, and an architect. So he's, very blue collar kind of guy, salt of the earth. And for me it was really mental health struggles. I had quite a few mental health struggles even at the beginning of our relationship, trying to figure out. I made this big career change. I made this big move. Who am I? What do I want from life? Someone who is really sure of their path now faltering, and also realizing I had something that was getting in the way, and that was generalized anxiety disorder. Growing up, we weren't really encouraged to talk to therapists. Not my parents' fault. Well, it is in a way, but like they weren't either. It was like you keep your issues, your problems private within the family. You can talk to your friends, etc. But like mental health isn't something that you need to like worry about. And I would say, as a huge proponent of mental health, you should treat it the same as you would your heart health, your
Yeah.
your, your pulmonary health. I mean, if I have an issue, I have no issues going to the doctor immediately and, looking into why I'm feeling a certain way and getting support, if that's taking medicine, if that's going to physical therapy, whatever it is. And I learned that therapy, medication, things like that, and, regular counseling and using your tools, those things are the things that help to improve your mental health. And if your mental health is not there and is a strong foundation, your body suffers and your physical health and your relationships, etc. So I know this might sound common sense, but, 20 years ago,
Yeah. There's been a big shift in awareness and understanding and acceptance of this kind of
for sure.
philosophy.
For sure, and I was one of my first friends in my friend group to say, "I have these feelings. I'm gonna try to get help for them." And my friends were like, some of them were very uncomfortable talking about it or even hearing me talk about it, and then others were like, "Yeah, I actually experienced the same thing," or "I'm really supportive of what you're doing." So I needed to get my act together and figure out how to deal with this residual anxiety from working in a very stressful environment and very stressful career, to, what I was going to do next. And I knew that I couldn't go into this business venture feeling like this. So I was, like I said, I had said earlier that I was getting help from my amazing psychologist. And I was getting help from my husband at the time, who was my boyfriend. And he didn't really know what to do, but he knew that, that I had, you know, a push, and I needed a little bit of I needed that support, and I was very clear that I needed that support. And yeah, so never give up. I think I was frustrated with the ups and downs too of like building a new business, and we got married, and I spread myself really thin, getting involved in our local chamber of commerce and just being the person who does everything. I want to meet everyone. I want to be at every event. I want to do everything. I want to say yes to every client who's interested in working with me. I spread myself really thin. So I went from, maybe not being a master of my own destiny, working for other people, but like also not being the master of my own destiny anymore either, because I was like doing what I wanted to do, but then I was doing a lot of things I didn't want to do. And
Mhm.
a lot of things and not knowing how to say no and draw boundaries. And I became quickly another chaotic, anxious mess in a different way. And so he just kept reminding me that I do need to, take time for myself, take time for us, and calm it down. And so I continued to try to put, the newly learned tools into practice, and it was really hard and it took a really long time. But one day I was leaving my I had an office at home, and I looked above, and he had put up one of those wall decals, and it said never give up. And I was floored. It was extremely touching, romantic, off-brand for him, and just something that always stuck with me, and I just kept reminding myself, "Just never give up." Very simple, it's not earth-shattering words, but it meant a lot to me. And then when we had a child, we started using that phrase, and it became our family motto. One time she made, like, a family crest, and she put pictures of us and things that we liked when she was younger, and then she put "Never give up." And so it is, and it's still, we moved houses, and he put it in our office here. When you're walking down the stairs, you see it. And it's just, yeah, that never give up is important to us. I had a cancer diagnosis when I turned 40. I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. I blame it on stress. And I'm 3 years out from surgery, about 2.5 years out from very aggressive treatment, chemo, radiation, surgery, the whole shebang. And never give up kept us going through the whole thing. So that's a whole nother podcast, I think. But yeah, I mean, that was a huge challenge. Luckily, I had amazing team members that were supportive, and then clients that were supportive, and they were helping run the business and the rescue while I was
Wow.
going through that for about a year. And survivorship, I'm still going through it every day. But
Mhm.
I'm definitely, I feel like I'm back, and Francine 2.0 is definitely a lot different. And yeah, so yeah.
She's definitely a lot different. Can you tell us one thing that's different about Francine 2.0?
Francine 2.0 is I can say no, and draw
Mm.
boundaries much better than I could before, and advocate for myself. I don't feel like I was advocating for myself often, and I was often putting myself not even second, but truly last. Um, and I would say yes too much. And
Mhm.
I was really deep into relationships, in rescue, in business, in personal relationships that were just not serving me in any way, and I felt I was serving them
Mhm.
all the time, and it just wasn't good. It was not good, and I feel like that
Yeah.
led to my diagnosis. There's no scientific proof of it, but it was a really freaky thing, and it was my very first mammogram. So I will say here, get your scans, everyone. Get your scans on time. That was a life-saving scan for me. We caught it early,
Yeah.
and so yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so it was just not something we saw coming, and at how fast I had been running, and how quick our pace our lives were. Even my husband, he ended up scaling his business down because he's a firefighter 48 hours a week. He works 2 24-hour shifts overnight, and he's a firefighter EMT, and he has this thriving construction business and design business, a design build called Summit. And he was, doing projects from scratch, building houses from scratch. And especially during COVID, like things got really stressful. Price of materials was insane, and finding help and just, navigating a world we didn't know how to navigate. Um, was difficult, and then with the cancer diagnosis and treatment on top of that, he scaled way back and decided to he's now doing custom cabinetry built-ins, and it's just something he enjoys way more. And he can spend more time being flexible in his putting his dad hat on and coaching our daughter's soccer, and just being more helpful with the schedule, and things like that. So we have a much stronger relationship and just a better home and family life after
Mm-hmm.
this whole this whole thing. So it didn't just change me. I think it's our family 2.0. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Those things do change the whole family. And and it is nice to see. I mean, I guess it's not always true, but in many, many cases, there is a big benefit. Oh, I'm glad I learned to to be different, to show up different, to say what's important, whatever the piece is that comes out of it. Not that we want to have those experiences to learn those lessons, but those lessons are so valuable, and they make a difference. It's good that Francine 2.0 has these skills because it matters. It matters.
I feel grateful to an extent to be able to also share that perspective with people who are struggling. And I have a really nice support group of young women who are also diagnosed. And, we people are continuing to go through stuff, recurrence, and, which is all of our worst nightmare, and complications and things like that. So it's nice to be able to help bring that perspective to the table and a lot of different tables, and
Yeah.
also try to remind people, including my team, like, I'm always reminding them, like, Francine 1.0 used to fly off the handle at certain things. I do have that Sicilian temper, and I used to just get really worked up about nonsense that was so inconsequential. Even the next day wasn't gonna matter, but I would react. I was a very reactive person. I was a reactive dog. And I had to keep telling myself, I had to remind myself, because I love working with dogs that are reactive and with anxiety, and dogs that are quick to maybe choose aggression, choose violence. So I had to see that in myself, like, you're doing the exact thing that you're helping dogs and their guardians to navigate, feeling better about, and so, like, create more space in your own head and in your own life so that you can slow down and process. So when I see my teammates and get frustrated about something, or quick to get upset, I'm like, this is so dumb. I'm not worried about it, so you shouldn't be worried about it. Like, it's like, at
Mhm.
the end of the day, if I'm not worried about it, please take that weight off your shoulders. Like, that's not a thing we're gonna focus our energy on, please. So especially if it's just like, I don't know, just ridiculous. There's a lot of nonsense that goes into running a business, and um,
Yeah.
that can really bog you down and take your focus right off the mission. The mission for
Mhm.
us is to make sure the dogs are having a great time, and that they're having a great life, and that their guardians know and our adopters know how to give that to them and how to bridge that gap between the communication. I mean, that is always, for me, number one. Like, do you understand really what your dog needs and what they're trying to say, and why they're expressing themselves in this way? And do you know how to meet them there? And how can we, stop misreading our dogs and miscommunicating with our dogs? It's a huge thing. And I do feel like, the ability to speak with people and try to meet them where they're at, and come at them from different angles of experience. And my team is pretty diverse in that way as well. Just, pairing people with the right people on the team, and sort of offering that support. Like, that is our mission. Our mission is the dogs, and leaving everything else outside the door, we have to try to do when we show up for them. So yeah, it is a. I am grateful to all those lessons. I
Yeah.
may not have learned them without this diagnosis this quickly. I'm
Yeah.
33 now. I feel like I've been through several wars or something, I guess. And, I try to look for the good from it. Obviously you can
Yeah.
negative. Why bother? I'm just grateful to be here. I say that to everyone all the time. Just happy to be here, guys. I'm just happy to be there. I tell my friends that all the time. They're like this and that, and sometimes I just look at them, they're complaining about something. I'm like, of course, everybody's valid. How you're feeling is valid. But sometimes I look at them when I feel like they're wasting energy on stuff that's, it's like, again, not really gonna matter. And I don't want to belittle it. But I also look at them and I'm like, I'm just happy to be here. And they're like,
Mhm.
it's like,
Yeah.
well, like, yeah, 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 maybe this isn't, maybe we can laugh about this instead.
Yeah.
lamenting. But yeah.
If I could give you a magic wand and you could bestow a blessing or grant a wish for pet professionals, what would you give us?
Goodness. Ooh. I would give you the ability to see your value and to know what your value is in this world and what your worth is, and to be able to show up for yourself in that way and ask for your value and your worth. I think too, sometimes people still think, what we do is cute and it's a hobby. What we do is important. It's really
Mhm.
important because our pets are important to to their guardians.
Yeah.
Most we hope they are. Um,
Yeah.
that's that's the wish, and most people looking for our services, are looking for that, but at the same time, I don't feel like we're always respected and, taken seriously, and, that's why continuing education for me and certifications. I mean, I kinda try to, I don't know, show more of that, objective value, I guess is the word I'm looking for, so that people can see. At the same time, if you're not able to go after all that right away because it's prohibitive, just still show up for yourself, and that's the one. I love to see my team get confident. I love to see my team know that they're valuable. I have seen so many people
Mhm.
come in our door and be just like really not feeling great about themselves, and then just meet people who they are like, oh, you're my people. Maybe people who are struggling with uh you know the world around us and not fitting in. A lot of us are neurodivergent, a lot of us have mental health issues, a lot of us have a lot of stuff going on, maybe weren't raised around supportive environments, where we felt safe. So that wand that I would wave would be, know your value and your worth.
So if people wanted to learn more about you and your work, how could they do that?
Um, you can Anyone can email me at francine@barkandroll.com if they'd like to connect with me directly. And yeah, that's how you can learn more about us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been such an interesting conversation. You've had a lot to share, and there are definitely things that we could have gone much deeper in if we'd had more time. But it's been lovely talking with you.
It was great talking with you too. Thank you for providing this outlet and the love and care that you give to our community. It really is exceptional what you're doing, and I want to support it in any way that I can.
Well, thank you. That means so much to me. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
That's our conversation for today. If something we talked about resonated, I invite you to sit with it. Notice what feels true and what you want to explore further. You don't have to have it all figured out to start moving toward what matters. Whatever showed up for you today, clarity, questions, even resistance, trust that it's pointing you towards something important. For more support, join my weekly notes at colleenpilar.com. And until next time, remember, you are enough. Always. Just as you are.